ever since they dropped the Georgia Guidestones, we don't hear too much more about their planned idea of reduce the population or maintain the population of the world under 500 million. I even found evidence that this was a thing going on from the Anglo-Saxon project, Anglo-Saxon agenda, whatever you want to call it, from 2010. I've talked about this extensively on this channel. So what does that actually mean? Well, of course, it's self-explanatory. They say in order to make Earth heal, help Earth heal, well, we basically need to reduce the population to less than 500 million and keep it under 500 million. And that includes the idea about the 15-minute cities, of course, the outbreaks and diseases and viruses and wars and everything else, famine and everything else, kind of goes along with this idea. But I went one foot beyond what they say, the 500 million, and I put this idea to artificial intelligence models. I used 8 different artificial intelligence models. All of them are free to use, of course, or free to use for a while. And I put forth the same parameters. What if something happened in modern day, current time frame, we'll say within a year, that caused all peoples to suddenly have to go underground, or a select few to go underground, and what would happen with them? Of course, this goes along with the project I've been working on, the externals. So y'all be surprised at what they said and everything. So, like say, something happened, caused a catastrophic event that it warranted emergency departure from the surface to underground facilities, like we heard about, the bunkers and stuff, whether they're corporate owned, privately owned, government, or local facilities like your civil defense bunkers or other accessible facilities. So we took all that in mind, and we took in something that a lot of people leave out is what I call the human factor, or the human chaos factor, because we are very unpredictable. Of course, we do have our patterns and everything like that, but our brain is kind of chaotic in the way it assumes ideas, stuff like that. So we had to predict what the chaos factor would be in this situation. So you'd be surprised. Now, out of the 500 or so million that's pre-selected, I do want to make this importantly known that these people would be pre-selected for this thing. We've seen this in movies, and et cetera, documents and everything like that. So these people would be designated to go to these facilities, underground bunker facilities. Now, out of these approximately 500 million, you'd be surprised at how many actually made it to the bunkers if something happened and warranted them to be within these bunkers within, say, 48 hours or 72 hours, like we've seen in movies such as, Greenland, okay? So, like say, something happened, 72 hours. How many people would survive and make it to the bunkers to actually closing the door on them? Less than half. Approximately 225 million would make it. So we went from there, and I set a timeline because if something happened like this, that people would be underground for quite a long time. And I set it at 25-year increments, all the way up to 250 years. So in the first year, the first 25 years, the amount of attrition, how many losses would be let out of that, out of the 225 million, there would be less than half of them left after the first 25 years. And that declination, that decrease keeps going down. So at the end of the 200 to 250 years, you'd be surprised at how many people would be left. So we did this. I went through several models and everything like that. Each one had a little bit different answer, but they all came to about the same conclusion. Some of them at the most optimistic outlook said 20% would survive out of the 500 million, out of the 225 million that made it to the bunker. 20%. The lowest attrition rate was around 8% attrition. Only 8% of the original 225 million would be left. But the average, all across everything like that, you put them all in together, most of them agreed around this line right here, is that around 10 to 15% would be that it would be all that's left of humanity on a catastrophic event that wiped out the surface. Like Noah's flood or the dinosaur meteor thing or whatever else catastrophic event that would wipe out or cause the decimation of life on the surface. Only 15% of humanity would be left. In the United States, we got the numbers down to specifically because of how this would be distributed. Of course, the United States being one of the most technologically advanced nations, would be have a higher number of people in the bunkers. But because of land area, they said that Europe would have more. But the people in the United States would have a more achievable survival rate. But even theirs, at best, was 15%. In fact, they said out of the 44 million, which is they approximate 44 million would go to these bunkers in the United States, out of these 44 million, less than 6 million remained across the United States. Right now, we're a nation of around 350 to 400 million. So less than 6 million of those, around 6 million of those would be left in the United States. And this is kind of the average across the world. And if we averaged it out working with parameters, that there would be 10 zones across the world that these people would be left in. So if you figure 10 zones, approximately 10 to 15% attrition rate, across the whole world, there would probably be around 15 million people left total. Think about this, guys. Now, we do know that everything's pointing to that a catastrophic event or something's going to happen that's going to wipe out surface life in the near future, it seems like. Of course, everything's leading up to it. They feed off that fear factor, but everything points to something's going to happen. Something's going to go down. We remember the FEMA coffins, the guillotines, the vaccines, and all this other stuff they've been shoving down our throat, trying to reduce the population. And now we're coming up with the point that something's getting ready to go down, and it's not going to be a very good time for very many people. 15 million out of 500 million. Something to think about. Y'all have a groovy day. Later, taters.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.